When I first began 19 years ago, Angling Road was a place where people would not only take root in their profession and passion, but flourish to the best of their ability. Where teachers would remain for 20, 30, sometimes even 40 years, not because it was their job, but because it was a place to thrive and grow as a person and as a professional. A place where they felt supported, a place where they felt encouraged, a place where they felt safe. Unfortunately, during our current administrator's tenure, these valuable assets, our teachers and staff, have become increasingly more difficult to retain. At this point in time, trust no longer exists between our remaining staff and the leader at Angling Road.
There is no sense of community at Angling Road under this leadership. The school climate is one of tension, fear, and uncertainty. Students feel this, and they see it in their defeated teachers. Students cannot concentrate on their job as a learner in an environment where dangerous situations are common and teachers are under-supported and overwhelmed. But these things are not provided by this principal. She has proven to not be just ineffective, but toxic to the school. Her poor attendance, lack of integrity, outright lying to parents, and an inability to take responsibility for blatant violations have been tolerated long enough. I'm here to speak tonight because we have exhausted all of our other avenues in an attempt to seek help for the safety of our students, teachers, and staff at Angling Road. Teachers and other students have been punched, choked, kicked in the face, and 2 teachers have had to seek treatment in the emergency room after being bitten by 2 different students this year. Classroom evacuations happen as often as 4 times in a single classroom in one day. We have sought help through our principal, went on to our union leadership who engaged central administration, and yet nothing has improved. Teachers trying to support each other have purchased their own wireless doorbells, which ring in a partner classroom to summon help when student behavior is endangering other students in the classroom. Teachers in our building have quit mid-year due to the lack of support. Skilled and talented professionals are leaving our building, our district, and the teaching profession altogether because of the incomprehensible stress that we are being subjected to day after day.
I know many of you parents have had your kids at our school, and it was cherished. I loved it, wore Angling Road everywhere, I worked there, and now I'm embarrassed to say I work there, and we need help. I was told I wasn't physically able. I am physically able to teach in a classroom. I'm physically able to sing, dance, play, go on the playground, teach reading, teach writing, teach math. I'm not physically able to separate kids that are punching, kicking. I was choked this year, and the kid was back in my room. Why am I protecting their kids instead of teaching them? That's my job this year, protect the kids.
My goal, along with many of the other parents and teachers here tonight, sharing our horror stories, is to hopefully avoid what was the worst school year ever from occurring again for our children with Heather Yankovich as the principal. During recess, they were victims of bullying that included violent behavior from another student and vulgar, inappropriate swearing and language. When I asked my child if this was reported, she said yes to the recess person and also to Heather Yankovich. No one from the school ever notified my husband or myself of this, and it continued to go on for several days. The chaos that took place at Angling Road varied from children being bit to a child being slapped, a kid escaping the school and hiding in the school parking lot with no communication to any parents. The one time Heather Yankovich did attempt to communicate something to a parent friend of mine, she mixed up the students because they had the same first name.
My child was a first grader at Angling Road Elementary this year and was in a classroom that I would deem dangerous and unsafe. My child started coming home and telling us the threats that another student in his class would spew when he was, quote unquote, angry. I was told said student stated he wanted to, quote, stab the entire class, end quote, and wanted to, quote, make them all suffer, end quote. When said student was angry and started throwing chairs and getting physical with his teacher and classmates, all things my child has never been previously exposed to. A few weeks later, my child came home from school to inform us of what I would consider an extremely violent event. Said student bit his teacher, called her an expletive, and broke out a window in the classroom. As my child went through the chain of events that day, tears streamed down their face, and all my child could do was express concern for their teacher and making sure their teacher was okay that night. After this event, my child did not want to attend school for days and begged us not to send them back to school. On top of all of this trauma, we were never once informed by the school as to what happened that day. No phone call, email, nothing.
2 staff members were sent to the emergency room on 2 separate occasions this school year after being bitten to the point that blood was drawn and a tetanus shot was needed. Upon return, one of these staff members found that the student received no consequences. Administration explained that intent could not be proven given that the student only bit down with their top teeth rather than with both sets of teeth.
Adults and students in our building are being assaulted on a regular basis, and our cries for help have gone unanswered. Violent incidents are not being documented, and parents are not being informed when their children are involved in dangerous situations. Our principal's inability to effectively address behaviors in our building has created a narrative that it's okay to hit your teacher or another student, it's okay to destroy school property, it's okay to get up and walk out of class when you don't want to work, it's okay to swear at your teachers and classmates, and it's even okay to make racist remarks to other students. What are the consequences? An extra snack, some time away from class playing with Legos or drawing or coloring or doing a puzzle? These seem more like rewards than consequences, and they only reinforce negative behaviors. Instead of supporting that teacher and students in that classroom to find ways to make everyone feel safe, the student was moved to my classroom at the start of the 4th marking period. When my principal met with me to inform me of this transition, I was told that it was necessary because the other teacher was not physically able to keep herself and her students safe. Since when did being physically able to ward off student attacks become part of our job description? Teachers call for support just to be told no one's coming. Upon hearing concerns about student assaults, a support staff member has told teachers, quote, "That's what you signed up for," end quote. When a teacher shared with our principal that she was having trouble sleeping and losing weight due to stress from students' behavior, our principal laughed and said, quote, "I need that weight loss plan," unquote.
Angling Road principal was absent for 5 to 6 weeks. We received no communication from administration about who was in charge in her absence. Examples above illustrate a system that is not working to keep children and staff safe.
We met with Ms. Yankovich about our concerns, but did not leave with any confidence that she understood what was taking place in the school with our children, or that there was any clear direction on how we were going to prevent this happening. We were particularly disappointed during our meeting that no responsibility was taken on her part for her handling of an incident involving our daughter. She was bit, skin broken and bleeding by a fellow classmate when our daughter was trying to comfort an upset student. Later that day, Ms. Yankovich had our daughter not only apologize to the student that bit her, but had our daughter hug the student as well. Our daughter complied within the meeting but came home really upset and confused. It is our feeling that Angling Road could benefit from a change of leadership, help us restore our once substantial confidence in both Angling Road and Portage Public Schools.
I noticed we didn't receive regular communication from our principal like other buildings did. There is a major lack of communication and sense of community at Angling Road. I reached out to the principal via email in January asking questions and expressing my concerns. After 2 weeks, I hadn't gotten a response and sent a follow-up email. I only received contact from the principal once my request to leave the building came across her desk in March, 3 months after sending my original email. I learned that parents and staff have not been satisfied with this administrator's performance as a leader for many years. This year, I heard Angling Road referred to as a dumpster fire and a hot mess from people who don't work at or have kids attending Angling.
This fall, my wife was assaulted by a student midway through her pregnancy. As a third party, I'm unaware of the specifics. However, I understand the circumstances did not match the severity of the behavior. I'm extremely disappointed in the way that this situation was handled by Heather Yankovich, who you just approved for another extension of her contract and a raise. It is the principal's responsibility to not only keep the students safe, but also the staff.
I've been a parent to an Angling Road student every year since 2006. The only exception to that was the 2021 school year where we opted to pull our 2 youngest from the district to homeschool. Those Through those years at Angling, things have changed, sadly not for the better. My experience with Heather Yankovich and lack of support hit an extreme low as early as 2014. She would make unnecessary comments, and there were instances in which she would unexpectedly sit in on my conferences. She claimed it was to offer support, but it wasn't. It was a form of intimidation and an attempt to silence me. It has been a very difficult time throughout the years, knowing how terrible she made our family feel during the most traumatic time of our lives. I've mostly kept quiet about my frustration and difficulties with Heather Yankovich. I hoped better for others and thought maybe we had just been unfortunate to experience her the way that we had. This doesn't seem to be the case. A few highlights from this year include January 24th. While saying goodbyes to family that were over for a birthday celebration, I was affectionately rubbing my 2nd grade son's head, and he cried out in pain and quickly moved away. I discovered a large lump and a bloody cut from a school playground incident that I had not been notified of. Additionally, this year, my other Angling Road student, a 4th grader, has been physically pushed, her hair pulled, and bullied and treated poorly due to her speaking up on a threat that was made to another student. Thankfully, she spoke up on it, knowing it was the right thing to do. I had to hear about the situation from a friend's mother, not the school. There were times in which my daughter felt so physically ill that it caused her to miss out on part of her own education. The bullying continued the remainder of the school year. I found myself, yet again, questioning why I am subjecting my children to this academic abuse and considered maybe another school would be better suited. While it's important to talk to our children about physical dangers that may come to the school, it's not okay to dismiss the dangers that already are there in the classrooms that they're in. When we teach our children that if they see something to say something, that only helps when they have the support of adults doing their part. Heather Yankovich is a clear example of how that is not always the case. The goal for my children has been and always will be for them to be happy, healthy, and safe. Our children deserve better, and it is up to the adults to make that happen for them. The first step in doing so would be to remove Heather Yankovich so she's no longer in authority at Angling Road Elementary. Thank you.